It's December 9th, 1997. I remember the date. I'm 32 years old and I'm 38 weeks, hugely pregnant. My family, my side of the family, they're in Florida. They've gone. My grandfather has died the day before, but I've been grounded. I'm not allowed to fly. So I am not in Florida. I am in my apartment on the Upper East Side. And my husband, Andrew, and I, we are so Upper East Side. Like, I've got 2 weeks to go before I'm going to have this baby because it's marked on my calendar, so I know when the baby's coming. And we've taken classes, tons of classes, and I've read books, and I know all the vocabulary, and I have a birth plan. So I am ready for this baby. But it's not coming for 2 weeks. My father-in-law, Marty, is coming for dinner, and I am making shrimp with citrus sauce and linguine and cilantro from a recipe that I dutifully clipped from the New York Times that week. And as I squat into a cupboard to get my new big bowl from Pottery Barn, something strange happens, and I am wet from the waist down. And I think to myself, remember, I've taken all these classes, so I think to myself, did I just pee myself? Because when you're 38 weeks pregnant, sometimes if you sneeze or if you cough wrong, you have a little pee. And they tell you that this is going to stop, and I'm just here to tell you, don't believe them. But I've taken the classes, so I realize I don't actually contain most of the time a gallon of pee, and my water has broken, and the baby is now coming not on schedule. So I call my husband and I say, I think you should come home from work sooner than you expected. And I call the doctor. And I say, oh, by the way, my water broke. And the doctor says, it's your first baby. Don't worry, you have 24 hours. Be cool, you're fine. And I call my father-in-law, who, he's kind of a little more proper. And I say, well, my water broke, but don't sweat it. Just come for dinner. And he comes for dinner. Oh yeah, I have 24 hours, right? So he comes for dinner, and he is clearly visibly uncomfortable having dinner with this very pregnant woman sitting on a pile of towels. And as soon as it is respectable, he leaves. And I'm not having contractions or anything. Like, we call our friends, we're like, we think you should come get the dogs. And we watched the second half of that two-part NYPD Blue episode. And finally, around midnight, I go, I think that was a contraction. Something felt funny. And so, like they said in the classes, we start writing down how often they're coming, how far apart, how long they're lasting. And within like an hour, they're 5 minutes apart. And this is not what the class said was going to happen. So we call the doctor, and she's like, nah, don't sweat it, you're good. And I get in the shower, because that feels better, and I puke up all my shrimp and linguine and cilantro sauce. I'm just telling you now, if you're pregnant, don't eat that. Don't do it. And I puke all that up, and we hang out, and I'm having contractions, and it's actually a very happy, sweet time. We're together. We're happy there's a baby coming, And soon, Andrew's like, maybe we should go to the hospital. I'm like, no. Dr. Almond said 24 hours. It's only been like 2. And he's like, but the contractions are coming like 3 minutes apart. And I'm like, no. Dr. Almond said 24 hours. That's what the classes said. That's what the book said. And I got to poop. Now you'll notice if you look around, the women are going, oh my God, and the men are going, huh? This will all come clear. So I have to poop. And I think if I could just poop, I could get back to this labor business, right? So I go to the toilet and I start trying to poop. And it doesn't really occur to me, nowhere in my 92nd Street Y classes did it say, if you're trying to poop so hard that you almost pull a towel rack out of a cement wall, you have a problem. 22 hours left to go, right? And finally, Andrew goes, I have had enough of this. We are going to the hospital. And he goes downstairs and he gets a cab and he comes back up for me and he takes me into the elevator. Now at this point, I'm making a lot of noise. So he rides me down in the elevator. He's 6 feet tall and he clasps my head to his chest so I don't wake up the whole building because it's now like 3:30 in the morning. And we get in the cab and I ride in the cab on my hands and knees. I cannot sit in the back of the cab, but I still have 21 hours left to go, right? At this point, I am only visibly human. I have lost everything that makes me a human. I am a bellowing T-Rex. And we get to the hospital and they rush me upstairs. The doctor is nowhere to be seen. They rush me upstairs and I go right for the toilet. And the nurse is like, no, no, no. And they get a nurse, a midwife who's next door. And she gets me on the bed and she looks and she says, stop making that noise and you push. And I make one push and there's her head. And I make one push and there's a baby. And I'm on my hands and knees still. And Andrew says, oh my God, she's right under you. And I look down and there's a person looking up at me. And the doctor shows up just in time to sew me up and collect her fee. And about a week later, I think to myself, my wounds are healed and I'm left only with scars that hopefully my husband will see. But what I don't know is that when you have a baby, the real wound lives right here and it never heals. And you bleed all the time. When she doesn't get invited to that birthday party in first grade, when some little bitch this high says, you're not my friend anymore,